So your resume length often is based on how long you've been in your industry, how long you've been working. We try to keep the resumes to 3 pages or less. We try to shoot for 2 pages, but mostly 3 pages if you've been in the industry for quite a while. As I mentioned earlier, the North American resumes don't include pictures of yourself, your marital status, place of birth, number of children, or religious or political affiliations. Your street address. A lot of people nowadays want to know, can I put my street address on my resume? Is it needed? These days, we do omit the street address and usually put your city and state on your resume. But with all the remote working going on these days, even city and state, you can apply for a job across country if you're able to work remotely. Avoiding outdated email addresses. So AOL and Yahoo, those have been around since the beginning of the internet, I feel like. You do want to make sure that your email address is professional. You may have had bigbear123 at AOL.com for the past 20 years, but it doesn't really look very professional on a resume. So the best solution is to maybe create a new email address and have it your name. That way it's easy for the person reading your resume to remember your email address, and it's easier for them to type in. You also want to include any LinkedIn URLs and any other website or portfolio links on your resume. Nowadays, most all resumes are sent electronically, so those links are very important. It's another way for the reader to get to know you better on a more personal level by clicking on those links. As I said, the length of the resume, no longer than 3 pages. It's not a biography or a novel of everything you've done. It's very specific towards the job you're going for. So while we try to keep it on 2 pages, you can use 3 pages if needed. The only caveat being, if you do use 3 pages, make sure you use at least 3/4 of the page. You don't want just a couple lines spilling over onto that 3rd page. If that's the case, if that's what's happening, then you may need to remove some content for your resume or adjust the formatting, decrease the margin sizes. How much information should I include on my resume? How much time do I need to go back? Well, we mostly say 15 or 20 years back. Find a good break within that time frame. Do you need your older experience on your resume? Of course, you do want to mention it. Put your position on your resume, the company that you worked for, because that shows your growth. It shows the reader how you became who you are today. And it's also a conversation point. Maybe you're going to make a connection with a person at an interview. Hey, you worked at Ander Consulting. I had a cousin that worked there. You're making a personal connection that wouldn't have been made unless you had that experience on your resume. But as far as detailed information, the past 10, 15 years will do. So the components of a resume, what do I put? Now I have to write this document. What do I put on my resume? So at the very top, you want what we call an executive summary. This is not very long. It's 3 or 4 sentences, and you're briefly describing yourself. You're telling the reader what you're about, who you are, what are you passionate about? Are you an executive leader that drives revenue? Are you a transformational person that loves building, high value teams? You want to catch that reader's attention with information in that summary. Work experience. Again, you want to put 10 to 15 years of work experience on your resume, working in reverse chronological order. You do want to make sure your most current job is on that front page, because we know the reader's going to see that front page. We don't know if the reader's going to flip to the 2nd or 3rd page, right? So you do want your most current job with the most pertinent information that relates to that position you're going for on that front page. Education. Yes, you do need your education on your resume. Where to put it is up to you. Some people like it on the front page. Some people like it on the back page. There's no right or wrong here, but you do want to put any degrees you have, any certifications as well under your education section. We do omit the year of any degrees because you don't want to age yourself out of any position. And then additional content. Where do I put any board certifications or memberships? We always put those at the end of the resume because, again, they are important. They show the reader how well-rounded you are, what other achievements you've strove for in your life. You're a go-getter, you're a continuous learner, you've gone for extra licenses and certifications or even degrees. So it's always good to have those on a resume. Formatting. Oh my goodness, formatting is a big one. So how do you format a resume correctly? Because you do want to make it appealing to the reader. You know, they're going to look at your resume. Do they want to see size or type size 8 font that's, you know, itty bitty? They don't. You want to make it, when the reader looks at it, it's appealing to look at. It's easy to read. So keep your paragraphs to a minimum. You know, you have your profile summary, executive summary at the top. Under each job, you want to have 1 to 2 sentences describing that job, why you were what you were challenged with, why you were hired into that position. And then after that, you're going to list your main accomplishments in bullet form, keeping it sweet, short, sweet, and to the point. Coloring, underlining, and bolding. You do want to use this selectively, because if you have everything bolded or underlined your resume, it's not going to be as impactful as you need it to be. So things like your name need to be in bold. Positions you've held can be in bold. Also, it's okay to put a little bit of color on your resume. For when I write for my clients, I do like to put their name in a different color. Also keeping it professional, you know, deep blues, mauve, you know, maroon colors, things like that. Nothing bright, nothing that's going to make a reader, you know, jump back and be like, oh my goodness, neon green. You do want to stay away from any text boxes, columns, and tables. That is because most every company nowadays are using ATS systems, applicant tracking systems. So basically that's your resume is going to go through a computer system, and that system is going to look for keywords and phrases on that resume to see if you're qualified. And we definitely don't want your resume to fall through the cracks just because you have a table on there and the system can't read it. And finally, you do want to save your final document as a PDF. This is going to ensure that the formatting stays correctly. As I stated before, most resumes are sent electronically nowadays via email, via job website. We want to make sure that when that reader pulls up your resume, the formatting is held so it looks nice. And also it prevents somebody inadvertently changing or deleting information off your document that we know can happen.
And Amanda, just one thing on my end is the font, the kind of font. We have to kind of stay with the times. So Times New Roman was great maybe 10 years ago.
Yes.
You might want to consider, right, more you know, current font. So Calibri, Arial is still great, but I'm sure Amanda, you and I both agree that the font itself is probably more important in sort of dating you as far as, you know, how old it might be and relevance than a lot of other things. So consider that as well in the font choices that you make.
Yeah, great point, Simeon. All right, executive summary. Let's talk about that, how you're going to add your uniqueness and value to your resume. So here's an example of an executive summary. At the top, we've got some bold print that's going to grab that reader's attention. So when they glance at this resume, they can see you're an executive, and some other keywords on your resume. Global innovation, operations, business development. So right away, by glancing at this executive summary, I can see what this person is about. And below that, we have a small paragraph, dynamic and engaging executive leader focused on growth. Again, right away, I can see what are they? They're a dynamic and engaging executive leader. And what do they do? What are they passionate about? They're focused on growth. And of course, it gives some other information about that reader. Below there, we have some keywords. Again, this is popping information out to that reader so they can glance at it and see what your strengths are. And it's also good for those ATS systems for those keywords. Again, as many keywords as we can get on your resume, and the keywords that pertain to that position are key to having a good resume. Work experience. Oh my goodness, what to include and what to leave out. This is a tough one. It's very, very difficult when you're writing about yourself on what to include, what to know to include, and what to leave out. Okay, consider having a line for a company description. This is important because not everybody may know the smaller companies or other companies that you've worked for. One brief line, what kind of company is it? Is it a technical company? Is it a software company? Lets the reader know what kind of industry you've been in. Show total of years at a company. If you've held multiple positions, it's always good to break out those different positions on your resume. But in the very beginning, if you've worked at a company and you've been there for 20 years, you want to show that you had 20 years experience with that company. And then each position is also broken out with the years of experience per position. Try not to lump multiple positions together. We want to show the growth and development of your career, how you became the person you are today. Responsibilities. We don't want to use the phrase responsible for. That has been used. Like Simeon said, you don't want to outdate yourself. So we want to use other words and phrases for that. You want to highlight the scope. How much was your budget, your PL oversight? How many people did you manage? Indirect and direct reports. Where did you manage? What teams were you responsible for? Was it global? Was it in North America? These are all key factors, key information about you that the reader is going to want to know about. And then also consider mentioning how you got into the role and what level did you report to? Why were you hired into that position? Was it a position that was newly created for you? And who did you report to? That's also important to the reader. And below there, we do have an example of a section of a resume that shows Dr. Leonard's Inc., a division of Amerimark Interactive. Again, we show the information for the company and then the position, Chief Merchandising and Brand Officer, 2018 to present. We don't have to put the months in there. We want to use the years, easy to read. And he reported to the president, direct revenue responsibility. All of this is key information that the reader needs to know about you. But again, we're keeping it short and sweet. We're not fluffing it up. We're not making it a novel. Okay, bullet points are key for accomplishments. It makes it easier for the reader to read the information on your resume. We don't want the reader to have to search through your document to try to find out the pieces that they need to know. Your goal is to have 3 to 5 major accomplishments for your most current role. And these are major accomplishments, not the smaller stuff, the stuff that is going to wow the reader, the stuff that, when somebody reads it, they're like, wow, oh my goodness, I want to talk to this person. I need this person in my company to come work for me. And as you go further on in your resume, the older positions, you want less and less information. So normally 2 to 3 bullets for the older information is fine. Numbers are your friend, metrics. These make an accomplishment strong. So for example, if you say on your resume, increase revenue through strategic leadership. Okay, that sounds good, but increase revenue by 10 million through strategic leadership. You can see how that improves the accomplishment. It makes it stronger. It's a definitive result of the hard work that you put in, because the reader doesn't know all the blood, sweat, and tears that went into your work, right? You know it, but as a reader, we need to give them that information. We need to give them the wow factor and impress them, and nothing is better at doing that than metrics, numbers, percentages, anything that we can put on there to show definitive results. An example below there, we do have some examples. Redefined organizational strategy and transformed a boutique engineering firm into an emerging force in global simulation and training space in under 2 years. Below there, we have resulting over 275 million in new business proposals. Again, those numbers are going to jump out to the reader and make it more impactful.
And Amanda, without those metrics, if you think about it, a job description has maybe 10 lines of what the responsibilities are for that job. Mm-hmm. If you just put the what, right, that, I built a strategy around X, that actually is just reflecting back the job description. It's just basically mm-hmm. saying, you might as well write your own job description, right? But putting metrics, to your point, really says that I've done this, and right. The impact of what I've done, right, compared to someone else's this large or this big. Yeah. So.
Right. Sure. You definitely want to look at your accomplishments and say, so what? That's the one thing that when I'm working with a client that I have on the resume. Okay, so what? You did this. So what? That's not impressing me. You need to tell me what the results are of what you did. That's the so what. That's the punchline that we're looking for that's going to impress the reader. Education. There we go. So what's important? A degree, concentration, college, location. Do we need to put the date on there? What if you didn't finish the program that you started? Let's address those. So yes, putting your degree on a resume is beneficial. Putting the concentration on the college and even the location is all good information to put on there. The graduation date, we tend to omit that because it may outdate you or age you out of a position. We want to impress the reader with what you've done, what you're going to bring to the table for them. So we don't necessarily need the graduation date. I do let my clients know if it's something that they recently did, like they got their MBA recently while simultaneously working, then you can put the date on there, because that shows the reader that you are a continuous learner and that you were able to still continue your education, further your education while holding down that position and excel at that position. So what if you didn't finish a program or it's in progress? If you didn't finish a program, then you can always put started this program or partial completion of a program. If it's in progress, I always put in parentheses, in progress out to the side, or estimated graduation date is this. Again, we want to show that reader that you are a go-getter, you're a continuous learner, because if you're furthering your education, it's only going to be more beneficial for the company that you're working for.